there's an interesting stat. So I've got a young family, and a stat that I came across the other day was that by the time my oldest son goes to work, 75% of the jobs that will exist don't exist today. Right? Well, but
That's terrifying.
but our jobs didn't exist.
No, really.
10 years ago, mobile wasn't a thing. Unless you were going to try and do what we did and write apps for Nokia phones, which was a terrible idea. But so things change, new jobs emerge, and everybody has things they don't want to do in their job, and there's places they can add more value and use their creativity and be more fulfilled. When you look at it, stop looking at it as AI, start looking at it as an IT project, then you start looking at how you can engage the team, how you get everybody involved, you get them on board, you look at communications programs, you look at training programs, and then you stand a much better chance of building something successful. Whereas if you just look at it and say, well, it's AI, so it will work, then you end up in the obvious place.
How are we using AI at Sonin, and what's working for us at the moment, and where are we seeing those kind of incremental gains?
Sure. I really want to reply with, well, writing scripts for podcasts.
Oh no, he's found me out. So, welcome to the next instalment of our podcast series. I've come from behind the camera this time, and I've sat down where you usually sit, and we've placed you firmly in the hot seat. Going to be asking some awkward questions around AI today. We've kind of finally had to do it, haven't we? An episode on AI. It's everywhere all of the time at the moment, and I suppose it's about time that we kind of ventured out a little bit from hiding away to say something about AI. So let's start with a light question for you, because I want to be a fair host today. Let's start with your view as someone leading a digital product company. What does AI mean to you right now? How are we approaching it at Sonin at the moment? What are we doing?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's quite a wide-ranging subject, obviously. So I guess one part of it is that AI isn't a new thing, right? So it's obviously become much more front of mind since ChatGPT and OpenAI and Gemini and everything else came along. But we've been using AI for client projects for years. So, I mean, we were using things like IBM Watson for image categorization probably 6, 7, 8 years ago. TensorFlow for number plate recognition for insurance companies, for first notification of loss. Things like sentiment analysis through NPS surveys for some of our clients to understand and remove the human processing from understanding what's going on and the customer expectation gaps and things like that. So for us, it's not a new technology. It's probably become much more accessible with the latest tools, right? It's a lot easier and quicker and to get things going. But from the point of view of our clients and what it means to them, our viewpoint is still exactly the same as it always has been, which is starting from that point of what you're trying to achieve, what's your objective, what's the business goal here, and AI is essentially a tool that allows us to tackle that. As I say, the big difference now is that it is so much cheaper to use, so much quicker to integrate, and so much more available. So from our customer's point of view, a lot of that kind of stays the same. The other side of things is obviously internally, our focus is all about building the right product, and it's about how we get there. Now that process is continually evolving because obviously there are new tools out there. Existing kind of incumbent players always have a habit of integrating a new technology like this as a feature. Every piece of software you've got now has a little wand with some fairy dust off the end of it for an AI feature. It has to, or you can't raise funding. Crazy statistics about the number of VCs that are, or the number of projects that VCs are putting money into. And if you don't have AI, the odds of you raising funding are minimal, which is obviously a big driver for people just to feature cram AI into everything. So we've obviously got that going into all the tool sets we use, and we use a wide variety of tools in building the right product. And we use it for everything from looking at how we can improve discovery processes, rapid prototyping. There are some great tools for that, getting it into people's hands so you can see them using things much quicker, all the way through into test automation and out the other side.
And I suppose you touched on it there, is that our mission hasn't really changed, even though AI is changing rapidly around us. Our mission to build the right product with a client we're still steadfast on that. But we are seeing that the temptation to bolt on AI into every product and every project that we work on become more and more a common theme with our clients. So how do we kind of navigate that and make sure that when clients are coming forward with, we want to integrate AI, where do we even start with them?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, that's not like this situation isn't new to us, right? So one of our kind of genesis stories is when we got brought into a global pharmaceutical company. We sat down in their office, talking with a team that looked after Western Europe, and we said, right, how can we help? And they said, we need an app. And we went,
Nice and broad.
yeah, exactly, cool. Well, we do that. You know, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? And they're like, well, we need an app. We're like, right, okay. And like, everyone's got one. We're like, right, okay. And that obviously is not a recipe for success, because all right, you got an app. What now? Nobody uses it. It falls away, and you never get any real value off it. And we're in a similar state now. Nobody wants to be left behind. Nobody wants to miss out. But a lot of the time, people are kind of just starting from I want a piece of technology.
Yeah.
I want AI. We need some AIs, and that is not a great recipe for success. It's the same thing, which is that you need to look at what you want to achieve, what's important to you, and then figure out how you're going to do it from there.
Yeah, solving a problem before actually then going any further with it, isn't it? It's still the same thing that we do every time when we're integrating any product or project in, isn't it? It's that we're solving the problem that our client comes to us with, not just going, AI is fixed in that.
Find a problem to solve rather than a solution to go and find a problem for.
Yeah, exactly. At the moment, there's obviously positives and negatives with AI. So let's talk upside. Where's AI making the biggest impact for businesses, from your perspective, of course, especially for a founder and business owner? But where are you seeing those kind of quick wins and those obtainable wins with AI at the moment?
Yeah, there's so many different uses for it. It's such a broad spectrum of things, but there are definitely some obvious quick wins that are starting to emerge for people, or well, comparatively quick wins. Obvious use cases. So things like customer support desk, self-service, that type of thing. There is a lot of really good value being generated through there, where there's a knowledge bank of information and you can guide people through. You can use technologies like MCP to connect people to their information as well. So there's some really good progress on that side. And some of that is through what we all know, the chatbots and things like that. And then the other side of it is also just self-service phone lines, whereby, customer support people are ringing out. The voice generation stuff is fantastic. People like 11 Labs have really got great expressive AI generated voices. So that ability for customer service to reach out and do jobs that, frankly, people just couldn't afford to do before.
Yeah.
So it's not, I think there's the constant story of jobs being taken away, but actually a lot of the time now there's value being created that previously economically it just didn't make sense to do. But now, because the bar is that much lower, it's that much more achievable, then you're able to add all that extra kind of value to the end customer.
Yeah, it was previously probably once seen as a nice to have over here, but now that there's time being freed up by AI and doing monotonous tasks and things like that and repetitive tasks, you can now free up people to do the nicer pieces as well, and the stuff that adds value to the end user as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at the amount of effort that would go into trying to get some of those programs from a customer support point of view up through recruitment, training, implementation, monitoring, everything else. It would be enormous. It just wouldn't return the value.
Yeah.
But now it can.
Obviously, amongst all the excitement and the hype and buzz around AI, I feel like we're starting to see some of the stress cracks emerging, especially across business at the moment, and the integration in AI. Why do you think so many companies are or can be struggling with AI and the adoption of AI?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're definitely, like, in terms of hype cycle,
yeah,
we're kind of like, well, we're not even at the top of it. We're like up here, past it.
Go to that point.
Yeah, we've got the roller coaster's taken off. So naturally, there's going to be some kind of despondency, and people have an expectation that it's going to achieve so much more than they would of any other tool. It's like, the answer to everything. And there's a bunch of different reasons why people are losing faith in it. Some of it is, they started off with the solution and not the problem. So unsurprisingly, they're now finding that they're not actually able to find a problem that it fits in to solve. So there's some of that. A massive lump of it is that people are just kind of buying the software without training people how to use it, which is crazy, right? Like you watch how people use LLMs, and you'd never just ask somebody their opinion on something and then they tell you it, and then you just go and type into a report and send it off.
That'd be just insane.
but this happens. In fact, there's a instance recently where one of the major consultancies did this for a government, and they sent off the report and it was wrong. So the LLM had produced something because they produce things that look like the right answer. They don't produce the right answer. If you look at the benchmarking scores, they're rewarded on giving an answer more than the correct answer. So to get a better benchmarking score, they naturally get incentivized, not necessarily to answer as accurately. But so in that instance, the report went off to the government, and then with this incorrect information in it, and they've ended up refunding the government, and there's been all kinds of fallout from it. So some of it is like a training piece.
Yeah.
Like I say, you'd never do that with a human, so why would you do that with something that's just giving you something that looks right? And the other bit is if you look at what most people are thinking of as AI, which is basically integrating LLMs in different ways, the first point is just people being taught how to prompt properly. So that kind of concept of give me a research paper on blah 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 versus, which is like zero prompt, versus kind of single shot and then multi-shot, which is where you give examples of what you want back and where you've seen things right before. It increases the quality of what you get back massively. And that's before you even start looking into the things that maybe start to move into more the types of projects we'd take on, where you're looking at building out RAG flows and MCP and bringing in other data. And then, a lot of people will never have a requirement to get to the point that they're refining an LLM or building their own or whatever. So a lot of it is training.
Yeah.
Right from the outset, just looking at helping people understand how to use the tools that you're providing.
See a crazy stat the other day that I think it was about 75 to 80% of all AI projects that are being adopted into businesses at the moment are failing. And that is probably in no short part to that no one was trained on it. No one actually fully understands the capabilities of what they're actually using. And integrating that in, it's also, like you say, the training as well around it.
Definitely. And of course, it's also worth bearing in mind that IT projects do fail.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like, not just AI projects, IT projects.
Sonin projects never fail.
Well, no, of course never, no. But it's the same thing. Like, it's when you look at it, stop looking at it as AI and start looking at it as an IT project, then you start looking at how you can engage the team, how you get everybody involved, you get them on board, you look at communications programs, you look at training programs, and then you stand a much better chance of building something successful. Whereas if you just look at it and say, well, it's AI, so it will work, then you end up in the obvious place.
Yeah, it's a golden bullet that's going to solve all our problems. Very far away from that. So with that in mind, I suppose we need to have a look at then what's the better way forward. We obviously have great experience on how to integrate technology into businesses, but then how should businesses approach AI practically?
Yeah, so I mean, that is kind of like we just said. Like, it's consider it a IT project like any other IT project to a large degree, right? So you want to start with business objectives and why you're doing it. You want to define what's going to look like success. You want to start getting the wider team involved as well. I mean, there's obviously lots of specific AI pieces around data and preparedness and how you go about testing it and making sure that it's going to give the right results, because it's not a database. You don't ask for row 5 and get row 5 back. It's a little bit different the way that vector databases work. But the basic premise of getting engagement from the team is still just as important as ever. And I think there's a lot of fear around AI.
Of course, yeah.
Most people think that AI is coming for our jobs, and people are terrified of that. But there's an interesting stat. So I've got a young family, and a stat that I came across the other day was that by the time my oldest son goes to work, 75% of the jobs that will exist don't exist today.
Oh God!
Right? Well, but
that's terrifying.
but our jobs didn't exist.
No, really.
10 years ago, mobile wasn't a thing. Unless you were going to try and do what we did and write apps for Nokia phones, which was a terrible idea. But so things change and new jobs emerge, and everybody has things they don't want to do in their job, and there's places they can add more value and use their creativity and be more fulfilled. involving the team along the journey, helping them understand what new opportunities might come so that they're engaged in it and they look for the benefits rather than looking defensively, is going to stand you in good stead. And then all the standard stuff around communication and discovery at the start.
I like that. It ties back to that element of AI can free up time for people to either, in some instances across our business, if they're a developer, they've got more time to develop the nicer things that can add a lot of value to our clients. If you're a designer, you can have the fun, nice to do stuff, not just sitting there doing the manual repetitive tasks. It actually frees you up to be more creative, doesn't it?
100%. And let's not forget, we live in a world that's constrained by budget.
Of course, yeah.
So this also means that by using some of these tools, you can automate into processes that you couldn't get to before because there was a budget constraint that didn't allow you to get to it. And that's a tremendous benefit for everyone.
I was speaking to a fellow marketer more recently, and he had an interesting take on integrating AI into business. Is that it's become almost like a great leveler, especially for marketing. That it's you've got so many more tools and access to everything that everybody else has access to. I suppose the same goes for our developers as well, doesn't it? That everyone is in the same boat, all moving in the same direction. It's just how you utilize it and how you can understand it quicker is going to be the real key for people to understanding it, integrating it correctly, and understanding what the business impact could be.
The tools have always been out there, and low-code solutions and different ways of doing things. I think they've obviously become much more accessible. The pace has become much more rapid as well. But I think the ability to ask the right question is the key thing, which is just like managing people, right? It's anyone can manage somebody, but it's about asking the right questions at the right time to help guide and coach and whatever else. And I guess you've got the same thing. Is you and I could both write an article, for example, but you kind of need the knowledge to know what to ask it and how to ask it and the right topics, and that kind of again comes back to having the foundation to utilize it as a tool. It is great that anybody can build an experiment now, and I recently vibe coded a football management game with my oldest son, just kind of talking through the technology and helping understand it. But we started from the point of view of describing the technology stack because I could. So we were talking about using WebSockets and 3JS to do the graphics and whatever else. And as a result of that, we were able to kind of dictate and move it in the right place to give us a foundation to grow off. Whereas if I'd just said to it, build me a football management game, we could have ended up anywhere.
That's probably where I would have got to.
Yeah, I mean, the game was awful anyway, but it was solidly fixed on the idea of an academy player suddenly becoming a superstar. Can't think why. But you still, I guess my point is that it's a tool. You have to guide it. You have to be skilled in it. It's a new way of working, and people have to learn those new ways of working. But I don't think it. I think it just makes it more accessible. I don't think it removes the form from it. And there are lots of cases at the moment whereby, because it looks like it's doing the right thing, people think it is.
Yeah.
Which kind of comes back to that same thing with the report. Just because I can produce something that looks like an app, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's secure. I certainly wouldn't say that it's ready for kind of our corporate customers.
Yeah.
There's dating apps that have been just distributing their user data across and for anybody because there's no security attached to it. And over time things will get better, but it's a bit of a case of we're not quite there and ready for that yet.
Yeah.
But for prototyping, it's fantastic.
Yeah, of course. So following on from my previous question so let's flip it. Where have you seen AI being used well at the moment? And I think you touched on a couple of use cases as well, but where have we been seeing AI being exceptionally used and done well?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some really good things with some really manual processes. So things like report writing. So we had a client that produced massive survey reports, and a lot of the time, people are sat on the side of a building site or wherever else, so they're just typing in notes quickly and off it goes, and then they have to have a room full of people that are going through and checking them and correcting them and removing words that shouldn't be there and all sorts. It's not really a fantastic use of human time, So there's a great opportunity to, or in their case, to put those through AI tools to correct grammar, to centralize things, flag any kind of anomalies, that type of thing. Similarly for reviewing images that are taken of on site, to highlight areas that maybe aren't risks or aren't complete properly, kind of defect flagging, that type of thing has been really good. We've got some clients that, the example we talked about earlier, that are doing great stuff with customer service, with calling back and things like that. So there's really loads of good places, but all of them are set around that tightly bound target and then working to achieve it.
So it kind of quite neatly ties me on to my next question here. How are we using AI? I suppose we've kind of touched on it at the top of the podcast, but how are we using AI at Sonin, and what's working for us at the moment, and where are we seeing those kind of incremental gains?
Sure. I really want to reply with, well, writing scripts for podcasts.
Oh no, he's found me out.
Yeah, I mean, so we have working groups internally that are looking at all the different places that we can use it, and honestly, there are opportunities across the whole process. We talk all the time, build the right products, the thing that's important to us, whatever it looks like, however we get there. The important thing is the delivery of value to the customer. And we use it across discovery. We use it across design. I mean, we've used it in design and discovery for years. Automated tools to kind of simulate eye tracking. We had Sarah on here the other day talking about design and cognitive load. So using tools to look at how people are going to use it in the wild. And obviously that cuts out huge amounts of time and cost compared to actually using real eye tracking. Things like processing user interview feedback. So if you've got to go through all the scripts and you've got to pull out all the key pieces, well, you can now do that using AI tools, which creates more time, and that budget can be deployed to get further into the detail as well. So it's really, it's everywhere. And there are loads of tasks that are necessary, but if you can automate them, if you can automatically triage bugs, or at least produce suggestions over where to look for bugs and that type of thing, then all it can do is stand to create capacity for you to use elsewhere that's going to bring more value for the end customer.
Yeah, I love that it can just free you up to be more effective for your client and for the project. It strays away from that doom and gloom of I'm going to lose my job to AI to AI is now superpowering me to do more, which is great. Yeah,
I mean, if you look at almost any survey, it says that the world is under-resourced.
Yeah.
Right. From a manpower point of view, from every point of view, but from a human resources point of view, skill shortages and everything else, and this provides an opportunity for you to deploy that resource in a better way, in a better manner.
Yeah. Thank you so much for today. I think we've covered off a huge amount. From that, we're staying steadfast with build the right product. If anything, it is ringing more true now than it ever has, because we're making sure that we utilize the new technologies correctly. We've looked at how with AI you need to do as much people training as integration. So you need to make sure that you are training other people as well as just integrating in a new piece of technology. And looking at that, it's not just all doom and gloom, is that it's actually going to be empowering people rather than taking away from them, which is positive in comparison to some of the news headlines. So if you are exploring AI in your business, starting with the problem, not the platform.
Yep.
Think long term, not short term. It's not just about the quick wins that you can solve overnight by strapping a new piece of AI into your stack. And don't be afraid to slow down before you speed up. Sounds cliche, but I suppose it does ring true more now than ever.
We should have done cliche bingo for today.
Yeah. You'll be pleased to hear that you don't have any quickfire questions at the end of this one, because I'm the host, so I got to get rid of them.
Yeah, you were sat here, so you weren't writing them over there. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, frantically trying to think of something witty to come up with. Thank you for joining me today. No doubt you'll be back in this chair afterwards, and I can safely go back behind the camera.
Hey, sushi.
Okay, thank you. You've been too kind.